Hello and welcome to another Blu-ray discussion video. This time we're looking at another Eureka release that came out in the past couple of months from 1974 from the UK, although it is an MGM film, so I don't know whether it's they call it a British film because it's primarily British actors. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure I'll find that out when I dive into the special features. We have Juggernaught. Again, 1974, directed by Richard Lester. So this is the origin story of the Marvel character Juggernaught, as most famously played by Vinnie Jones in X-Men The Last Stand. And this follows Juggernaut's kind of beginnings, starting in 1970s Southampton. And that's why they picked, obviously, Vinnie Jones being an English actor, to play the character in the X-Men film back in 2006. But way back when, 1974, they made a Juggernaut origin story. And I always wondered, like, where did he get that weird metal helmet from? And, well, it turns out it actually came from this ship. And so it's a disaster movie set on this big cruise liner called the Titanic. And Juggernaut is one of the passengers. And when the ship hits an iceberg, he ends up kind of headbutting the side of the hull, and like a big lump of metal sticks to his head, and he kind of plugs the hole with his head, and he says, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch," and that's how the line originated. I tend to, drag out these jokes, but no, it's not. It's not about the Marvel character Juggernaut, although he was actually. I did look this up. He was around in 1974, believe it or not, as a character first appeared in the 1960s, some 10 years before this film came out. Let's get into this one. It is a disaster movie. It is from the 70s. It is directed by Richard Lester, and it has an incredible cast of British legends. And that alone kind of was enough to really perk up my interest. I love disaster movies anyway. And, the 70s, you think of stuff like The Towering Inferno. There's more I haven't seen, but in general, I just find those kinds of stories in film so fascinating to watch, because you have like a big group of characters, and you see how everyone handles with the pressure and how everyone comes together, the solutions, the setbacks, the drama, the excitement, the tension. And this one, oh boy, this one, this was great. Me and Connie watched this, and at one point she was leaning forward, like not breathing. I was like, breathe, and she's the tension that ratchets up in this film, like in the third act, is crazy. So Juggernaut is the name of a man who phones in a bomb threat on the Britannic, which is a ship going from Southampton to New York. The opening scene, you see the ship at the dock in Southampton, and there's the streamers, and everyone's waving. And I said to Connie, that I can still smell the fresh sheets. She's like, why are you saying that? I was like, it's all there. All the imagery is there. Obviously, this was made some 20 years before the Titanic. And that's something I wanted to talk about before I get into I guess I've kind of already mentioned really the story. There's 7 barrels of explosives on this ship, and a bomb threat has been called in once the ship is out at sea in the Atlantic, and the man wants £500,000, which I'm sure was a lot of money back in 1974. $1 million. So, it felt a bit quaint now hearing that kind of sum. But, there's the push and pull of, do we just give in? Ian Holm plays the guy who runs the company of the ship, and he wants to just pay the money, and he's advised by the kind of police not to do that, and we shouldn't be letting people like that tell us what to do. There's 1,200 people on board the ship, but in the grand scheme of things, and it's very like, crazy kind of, I would say political talk, but it's like, to see that side of it, and how you would weigh up, okay, let's say we give £500,000 to this terrorist, and we save the lives of 1,200 people, but then that just kind of opens the floodgates for this to happen, every day, and then what does the world become? And so by not paying up and by sacrificing these lives potentially, we send a message to people that you can't do this. Of course, it's not like they're just going to leave it. They have a plan. So the plan is to send in by plane a bomb disposal team led by the great Richard Harris. Fallon, I think, was his character's name. Let's say that on the back here to confirm. Yeah, Fallon. Fallon is the champion, undefeated. And so he's kind of just the absolute don of like defusing bombs. And so him and his team, they go out to sea and they parachute down to the ship. That scene is incredible. So so they get on the ship and it's about trying to stop the bombs. And then you have Anthony Hopkins, yes, who plays the husband of a mother and her two children who are on the ship, but he's also part of the police force. The actor who plays Admiral Piet in Empire Strikes Back: Return of the Jedi is one of the policemen as well. And I said, "Fucking hell, it's it's an older code, sir, but still checks out. I was about to clear them." It's just like this is, I don't know. Just I love when you just see, oh, it's that guy who I've never seen in anything other than Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I'm pretty sure he's in both of them, and I'm pretty sure it's him, Admiral Piet, as well. If it isn't, I'll cut this out. If I haven't, then I'm right. But he has very distinctive fare. I don't think I've seen him in anything before but Star Wars. So that's basically the setup of the film, and you follow the people on the cruise ship. Omar Sharif is the captain of it. I mean, again, it's a pretty star-studded cast when you really think about it and break it down. At least retrospectively, I'm not sure about their star power. I'm sure Omar Sharif at that point in time was a fairly big name, and Richard Harris and stuff. Perhaps not Anthony Hopkins or Ian Holm. Although, interestingly, just as a kind of to date to this video, a few days ago, Anthony Hopkins posted a video to his social media accounts celebrating 49 years sober. And so this film would have been, I think, when he made it, perhaps the last year that he was an alcoholic. Anyway, so it's interesting because you have like Anthony Hopkins, Ian Holm, like Omar Sharif, Richard Harris, and I would say that all four of those kind of big names don't really have like a huge chunk of screen time. Even though they are kind of major characters, I think Richard Harris probably gets the lion's share of the four of them because we have a lot of stuff of him trying to figure out the bombs on board the ship. But Anthony Hopkins, he's going around trying to find potential suspects for the Juggernaught, bitch. And then you have Ian Holm, who's kind of stressing out at kind of the base of operations they set up. Once the film gets going, Ian Holm kind of fades back a little bit. Once the story's really going and you're following Anthony Hopkins interviewing people and his co-workers trying to find people who could be potential suspects, and also trying to find out who might try and pick up the money if they decide to kind of, give them the money and stuff. And then obviously on the cruise ship you have the passengers trying to cope with everything, and the gradual kind of revealing of information and stuff. But the reason why they can't just chuck everyone in a lifeboat is because there's kind of a storm going on, or at least the sea is very rough. And so even just the sequence where the bomb disposal team comes in, they parachute down into the water. They lose a guy straight away. Like, it's that treacherous of a situation, so they can't just put the people in the lifeboat. So all these questions that you have as an audience member get answered by the film. But what I loved about it, because you see a film like this, the ship's called the Britannic, it's a cruise liner, it's going from Southampton to New York. You can't help but think of Titanic, and obviously in the time that this film was set, A Night to Remember, the kind of original big Titanic movie, 54, I think. I can't remember if that's the year. I'm pretty sure it's 50s anyway. Maybe it's 40s. I think it's 54. Yeah, anyway. So you had A Night to Remember, and there's a nice little wink to that film in this, where the guy who's he's kind of like, I don't know what you'd even call him actually. I don't know if it wouldn't say on the back. But he's this big guy, and he's kind of the comic relief, and he's there to kind of entertain the passengers and stuff. I suppose on an official capacity, but he at one point he quips, "Well, this would be a night to remember," So they're very aware of kind of the parallels that are going to get drawn from the Titanic story and the previous film and stuff. What was so interesting to me was just to look at how Juggernaught sits in the middle of both of those films. So you have Juggernaught 1974, A Night to Remember in like the 50s, I think. So there's like a 20-year gap between them. And then 20 years ahead of Juggernaught, you have Titanic. And with A Night to Remember, it's very set heavy, for obvious reasons. but it's a great film. It really is a great film, the kind of original Titanic movie. And then you have Titanic itself, the James Cameron film, which is also mostly sets, but like with just the biggest budget you can possibly imagine, recreating the Titanic almost like, immaculately and perfectly, and then blending visual effects to show you the kind of the ship at sea to, a standard that really was kind of setting a bar at that point in time in 1997. So Juggernaught is right in the middle of that, where the visual effects haven't really caught up in terms of digital technology to show like great sweeping shots of the sea, the ship out at sea and the ocean and stuff. And also, I would say perhaps not a bigger budgeted film to have the sets to really sell all of that. So they shot on a real ship. Now, I don't know the extent of that, and I'm looking forward to listening to the commentary on this to find out more behind the scenes information about it. But just going off of watching the film, I mean, you can see it. It's right. It's all there in the film. They're sat on the ship. There's characters talking, and you're seeing the sea rolling in the background. You're seeing them on the deck, and they're kind of, there's bits inside the corridors where I'm almost entirely sure that they're just tilting the camera, and the actors are kind of acting accordingly, which is a great trick that looks brilliant on screen. But there's lots of great, and maybe they just did such a great job of peppering in little shots on kind of the deck where you can tell it's the ocean and you can tell it's a real ship, and there's these great helicopter shots of the ship and stuff. I was just so impressed by the production value. Even the sequence where the bomb disposal unit comes down, and they're jumping out the plane, and they're doing it for real. This like Tom Cruise shit, like, and it's just awesome. Like, it's just, I love the tangible feel of it. It made it feel all the more realistic to me. So I just liked how, not that this is a Titanic, story, but you can't help but think of that film or those films, and the just three different ways of doing it, and this is the one where you do almost everything for real out of necessity, I guess. But it gave it a grittier feeling than the Cameron's version of Titanic in some ways, and there wasn't this great big romance plot either. Not that there isn't in A Night to Remember either, but the characters feel very real and grounded. The mother of Anthony, the wife of Anthony Hopkins, who's the mother of these two kids, she's clearly going through something, and it just feels very, very real, and the characters on the ship feel genuine. I don't know. There's just, I really like the characterizations of them, and Richard Harris was just such a great character. At one point, Connie even just said out loud, like, I really love his character. The quirks and his little idiosyncrasies and stuff, and the way that he has kind of his right hand man, who you can tell he's trying to like rub off kind of his kind of genius when it comes to bomb disposal, but he's not doing it in a way where he's like, now I'm going to show you how to do this. He's prompting him, and kind of getting him to find the answer himself by just nudging him in the right direction. But the sequences where they're trying to, okay, so this, they map out where all the bombs are on the ship, so that one could probably explode and we wouldn't sink. So let's try that one first, and the way that it unravels and the points that you get to, it's so tense, it's so brilliant, and even the reveal of who the Juggernaut is was really great. And just the whole thing, I absolutely loved this film. As far as the disaster movie goes, I thought it was brilliant. And again, just like a thriller, And I love how like all of that mostly comes from just this. I feel like they must have shot it on a real ship because it's all like steel and stuff, and it looks fairly realistic. This kind of the corridors where the barrels are placed. A lot of it is just Richard Harris in a corridor, kind of sweating, But he sells it, and it's just like, it's so engrossing, and it's a really great kind of, again, like ensemble piece with a lot of different cast members. There's a great red herring, I would say, in the film, and I had to explain kind of what red herring. I couldn't believe she didn't know what the term red herring was, but there's a red herring in the film. I don't kind of spoil it, but this is like a disaster movie from 50 years ago. No one cares, but. There's a red herring throughout the film, and we're like, is that something there? And then right at the end, I thought, what about the red herring? And they kind of, I feel like it's a wink to the audience. It shows up again right at the end, and then nothing happens. And I just thought it was a really fun little kind of Like, I don't know. It's just that was enjoyable. Anyway, so this looked great. I thought the transfer was outstanding. It just says 1080p presentation, so there's no, shiny 2K restoration to speak of, but I thought it looked gorgeous. I really did. And when you got all this location stuff and this real kind of, again, practical, not effects, because again, there's no real effects in the movie, but the practical staging of these exciting sequences, I suppose, even if it is just the ship, a kind of rough sea. They ain't doing that like in like a dock somewhere. Like that you would have to take it out into like rough waters to capture that stuff. So I'm intrigued to see if there's any kind of some good behind the scenes information on that. But yeah, I don't know if I will have the time to do a full like Blu-ray review of this one. The greatest sea adventure in history has just begun. I used to love when they just do these painted posters as well. Just gorgeous piece. I believe there's another one on the inside that's slightly different. Yeah, this is kind of like you actually have Richard Harris there in the parachute, and then Omar Sharif. It's quite a nice painted poster there. I recognize this actress, Shirley Knight, and it's bugging me the whole movie, and I eventually realized she was the mother of Helen Hunt's character in As Good as It Gets, which is a film I absolutely love. So, great release. A film that I'd never heard of. That's another thing I love about these things, man. I love about physical media. It's just something will come out. It's like, wow, Juggernaught. Disaster movie starring all these great actors. I'd never heard of this before in my life. And then I watch it, and it looks great on Blu-ray. It's a great movie for me and Connie to watch, and it's kind of, full of tension. And yeah, great stuff. I absolutely love this film. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you've seen it, let me know what you think of the film, if you got the Blu-ray. And I do look forward to diving into the extras. I will just name check those at the end here. So there's a new commentary of the British cinema experts, Melanie Williams and James Leggett. And then we have All Hands on Deck, a new interview with film history with film historian. Been quite a few slips in this video, I apologize. Neil Sinyard. And then Down with the Ship, a new interview with film historian Sheldon Hall. Stills Gallery and a trailer, and then you have a booklet with a couple of new essays by Laura Main and Richard Combs. So, yeah, Richard Lester film. That name's familiar. I don't know where from, though. I'm sure I'll learn more about it in due course. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.